everyone, today is the final tutorial in the Winter Whispers series. I've made quite a few projects and I've made this beautiful memory keeping box to put them in. So this is not a throwaway box or a gift box, this is something to keep for memory keeping, you know, pass it on, gift it, something special. It's made completely out of chipboard, okay, and it's quite large. So I'm going to show you step by step. Even the shaker frame is chipboard. I'll show you how to do that. We've got the lovely shaker frame. We've got the magnetic closure. It's decorated beautifully inside and out. We've got this really cute, very simple decorative lip all the way around. It's absolutely stunning, and it's going to house all of these fabulous projects. So I'll do a final review tomorrow, sharing all of the projects that fit in here. Okay, this is a long video, but you don't get to learn to make something as special as this in 5 minutes, so it's worth investing your time. You can watch it in 2 halves, pause it and come back to it, but it's definitely worth giving it a try. It is absolutely fabulous. So let's get creating. Okay, so please ignore any writing on the chipboard because I have amended the measurements. So your very far left piece, that is your base. That wants to measure 8 3/4 by 6 3/4, right base. And then the larger piece to the right is your lid, 8 3/4 by 6 5/8, right lid. Make sure you're distinguishing between those because the lid is smaller. That middle section is your spine or the back. That measures 8 3/4 by 2 7/8. And then the smaller piece to the far right, that is your flap closure. That wants to measure 8 3/4 by 2. Take note of those measurements. Make sure you distinguish between the lid and the base. The lid is slightly smaller, so make sure you write on it which is which. Then we're going to use the acrylic fabric tape wrapping method. So I'm going to go through that with you. Okay? Cardstock or cardstock strips. If you're going to do it in strips of cardstock, they need to be at least 1.5 inches wide. Okay, and so what I do with the with this, I've cut this just a little bit shy of the height. Okay, so this is 8 3/4, so I've cut this to probably just over 8.5 by the looks of it. Okay, and you want is it 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those. All right, so your first one is going to go, so let me just move these pieces out of the way for now. Okay, so at the moment I've got the bottom and the spine, so the first piece wants to go on the outer edge here. Okay, make sure I'm shut, and you want to put your piece on, you want to centralize it and put it on about halfway, so make sure you've got an even gap top and bottom, not more of a gap at one side than the other, and that you're about, you know, halfway onto the tape. Okay, then you keep going, you do the next one, you lay it down. It's easier if you've got like a non-stick tool to help you, because this stuff is mega sticky, it will stick to your hands all day long. Okay, and I use it to like just keep it in place. Then put this piece on, centralize it top and bottom, put it on about halfway, okay, and flatten. So then when you come to adding your spine, you're going to need a small amount of a gap, okay, and the best thing to do is get a scrap piece, write scrap on it so that you don't actually accidentally think it's one of these pieces and start sticking it on, which is what I did when I first made this box. I had an extra flap, I was like, what's that? And then I remembered it with my scrap piece. So a scrap piece, the same thickness, okay? Put it on, line it up, make sure it's right, jutted or buttered right up against the other one, okay? And then you want to put your next piece on. And if you line it up with the bottom first, push it right up against that piece, then you should be straight with the top. Then remove that, okay? So you've just got enough of a gap for that to fold there. If you have it right up against it, it won't fold. Okay, right, so I've put my scrap piece there so I don't stick it on by accident. Then you carry on going, and you're next going to add your lid and then the folding flap. So I'll speed this bit up, okay? Okay, so now what you want to do with the remaining 3 strips is cover over that little spine area. Okay, you don't have to make as much fuss as you do with a journal cover, but yeah, just get it in as nice as you can. Okay. I know when to stop fast forwarding, in case you're wondering why I keep clapping my hands. I'm not praying, although I am, because I'm praying that this works, because I don't know, I've not tried it. this is my template. If you watch my channel, you know I don't always practice things. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, so you want to measure from the edge of that tape to the edge of that tape. Hopefully you can see. So where I went, so right from the edge of this tape here, right to the edge of that tape there is how long this next piece wants to be. Okay, I can't fit it all on screen now, it's getting a little bit ridiculous. Okay, but that's the beauty of this tape, you know, it doesn't matter how long we need it, it will fit in, just about fit that on screen. Can you see? So we're going from the edge of there to the edge of there. Okay. Excuse me. So let's cut our piece first. So you're going to need 2 pieces, one for the top and one for the bottom. So cut one and use that as a measuring guide to cut the next one. And this is why this tape's is especially good, because if you was making this out of cardstock, you'd probably need to join 2 pieces together. Okay, because it's a long piece. Right, let's move that tape out of the way now. So, same principle. We're going to remove the tape backing. Okay, let me just see if I'm fully in shot. I mean, hopefully you can see me do the top. I'm sorry if I go out of shot a little bit, but it is quite a large piece. I'll do my best to explain as I go. So, I'm laying that down. Okay, where's my little bone folder gone? Here we go. My little bone folder, and then I'm lifting all of this here, okay, and I'm going halfway, and I'm going to try and get it central so that I'm nice in the middle of that. Okay, so you can see it at the edge there, and you can see it a little bit at the edge there. Okay, and I'm going to turn it around, and I'm just going to do exactly the same. If these parts are annoying you because they're too sticky because you're not used to it, get some of your tape back in and put it back on. Okay, don't bother me, I'm used to it. Okay, I'm taking my next long piece off of its backing. I'm taking care not to get in a big sticky mess, but you know, you get used to how this stuff kind of like reacts and how it floats about in the air. You just get used to it. Right, lifting this up. Sorry if my head gets in the shot. Placing it on about halfway and centralising it on the length. Okay, so now we're all done. So what I'm going to do now is where this is overlapping, okay, I'm going to trim that off because you want it all more or less the same. Just looks neater then when you fold it all over. Okay, I'll just turn it around, move my jumper so that I don't have hair stuck to my tape from my jumper. Take your time. Remember, there's no prizes for rushing. Okay, so that's that. So now we want to miter these corners. Now I do have a mitering tool. Where is it? Here it is. I do have this mitering tool. If you don't have one, get some of the chipboard scrap. But on here you want 2. So you would get 2 pieces of the chipboard, okay, scraps. Put it butt it up against the corner and then either mark and then cut or cut. Okay, 2 pieces. Mine here is going to give me the right dimension because I've used it before. So let me just grab my cutting mat and my trusty blade. And all I'm going to be doing here is putting my mitering tool in there and trimming those corners off. So I'll do all 4 of those and then I'll be back. So I've mitered my corners, so I think my blade needs changing, it's ripped it there. So I'm going to start from the right hand side, and I kind of like push my chipboard down and then pull this tape a little bit just so that it gets right on the edge of the chipboard, okay, right on the very lip of it, and then I just kind of coax it over, trying not to get any bubbles. Okay, give it a little bit of pressure so that it's not, you know, you've not got bubbles on the edge here. Okay, I'm just going to turn it around and I'm going to do the same on this side. Okay, and then just the same as when you're wrapping with cardstock, you're going to have a little overhang on the corners there. So what you want to do with that is flatten it down as flat as you can. Just flatten it. Okay. Okay, just flatten it. Turn it around here. Flatten it. And here. Flatten it. Alright, so now you can start and wrap your longer bits. So again, we don't have to make as much fuss as we do when we're doing a journal cover, so just pull it so that it's nice and tight over the lip there, okay, and then pull towards the corner to make sure that it's nicely covered. Okay, and just, we're not, you know, pulling it really hard, but just a little bit so that you've not got any bubbling on this bit, on the very edge of the chipboard, as it were. Okay, and then again I'm pulling towards that left corner, and that's all in. Okay, get it in that gusset a little bit, but like I say, we don't need to make quite as much fuss as we do when we're doing a journal cover, because it's just a box. So again, I'm pulling here. So I've sped this up because we're just doing exactly the same as we've done on the other side. A little bit of light burnishing, make sure it all folds nicely, and you are done. So next you're going to need 2 pieces that measure 8.5 by 2 3/4, and 2 pieces that measure 6.5 by 2 3/4. Okay, so you have 1 8.5, then 1 6.5, then 1 8.5, and then 1 6.5. So I'm not going to be able to fit all of this on screen, okay, it's going to be impossible. So you'll just have to bear with me. So I'm going to do these 2 pieces first. Now I've cut some small pieces, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to attach all of these yet. So I've cut some small pieces to start off with that are just a little bit shorter than the width there. Okay, and I'm going to join these pieces all together just like we did with the last one. All right. So I'm going to join that on about halfway, okay, and then again I'm going to make sure that that is going to fold, okay, and then just lay it down flat. I'm just going to make sure it's going to fold, and I'm going to make sure it's top to bottom, okay, like that, okay. It's just a quicker way of doing it. You just need to make sure that when you lift that up, it will flip inside, okay? And then press, and make sure that that's down nicely. And then just keep going and join all 4 pieces. Okay, so speeding this up because it's the same process. Just make sure that you alternate those pieces size wise. Okay, and we're just joining them all up, stand it up tall, and then lay it flat, and you should end up with just enough of a gap to be able to fold those pieces. Okay, and there is your square. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get some of the tape again, and we're going to have one long strip that goes the full length, and at either end you want about, I don't know, maybe half an inch to an inch extra at each end, so that you've got enough to wrap over. And you want 2, one for the top
one for the bottom. Again, we're wrapping it in exactly the same way as we've done with the other pieces. This is a long piece, so I'm laying it flat on my desk and I'm taking the backing off a bit at a time, using non-stick tools to help me so that I don't get in a sticky mess and it doesn't flip back on itself. Then just lay it on halfway, make sure you've got even overhang at each end, and then do exactly the same at the top. Just take your time removing that backing and you won't have any problems. It's fun stuff to work with once you get used to it. Okay, and it is far cheaper than joining up heaps of pieces of 12 by 12 to get the length that you need. So now I'm just cutting 2 pieces to go at either end because you're going to have a small gap. Okay, laying it underneath to complete that section and then just trimming off where there's any excess. Okay, and do the same at the other end. Be careful if you get tape on your scissors and you're removing it, don't cut yourself, just be careful. So trimming it to make it nice and neat, and if you get any sticky on your scissors, just clean it off with alcohol. Okay, so mitering the corners just the same as before. Nice and neat. If you don't have a tool, remember 2 widths of the chipboard will give you a nice increment. Okay, so then we're going to start the wrapping process. Now you can leave one narrow end unstuck with the sticky part not down like I'm doing here, and then when you've finished wrapping you can join the whole square together with that. I wrapped both my ends and then thought, how am I going to stick it together, and had to use another piece of tape. So just bear that in mind, okay? When you get to one end, one short end, leave the shorter part, don't stick it over the chipboard. Use it to adhere the square together. Okay, so just go slightly in the gussets so that it's nice and neat, and pulling firmly so it's right along the edges and there's no bubbling, and you've got it nice and tight on the lip of the edge of the chipboard. Okay, perfect. Give it all a nice burnish. So there, that's where I'm thinking, how am I going to join those now? So for those joins, so you could cover them with tape, but that would may add bulk. So I'm using a marker pen and I'm just colouring maybe 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch each side of there. So then when I lay my pattern paper on, I've got a nice black border all the way around. Okay, and it'll look nice and tidy. So here now, this is where I'm getting an extra piece of tape to join them together. Had I left one end open, I could have just used that to stick it all together. But you live and learn. It was a prototype. One of those projects that I'm making up as I go along. So you can see me there using another piece of the tape to join the whole thing together. Now the beauty of the tape is that it is so thin that if you do need extra bits to stick things together, you can do that, whereas if it was cardstock, you'd end up with a big bulky mess. That doesn't happen with this stuff. So I'm sticking it down, I've put some glue on the seam so that it stays strong, and I'm just wrapping that around to the other side. You can see a bit clearer here. Can you? No, you can't. There you can. There you go. You can see me wrapping it around. Okay. Burnish it in with your bone folder and it will lay nice and flat and neat. Perfect. That is the second part of your box done. I did run some more glue down the seam there. If you do that, make sure you smooth it out with your finger. Don't leave it in a bulky mess like I did. So I'm using quite a fast drying, clear drying glue. Okay. However, here is a major tip that I wish I'd done in hindsight. That back spine piece there that's going to attach and the box, you want to put some tape on there as well as glue. Okay, so glue all the way around the perimeter. Okay, this is the only tricky part of this box. And then where I'm putting glue there, add tape as well. Okay, because it will just give you an instant stick and it will help the rest of the process come along much easier and quicker if you add tape as well as glue, because some of the weight of that lid kept pulling my back piece off. Okay, and then you just need to line those pieces up, and you've got to trust the process. You might think it's not sticking, you might think, you know, it's not working. it will stick and it will work. Once that glue goes tacky and you've got a light adhesion, mine's coming off because I should have added tape on the back, okay? Once you've got that glue's going tacky, it will all hold. And then at that point, you just need to wait for it to dry. So just make sure you've got it nice. It's measured within an inch of its life, so it just fits with a very small lip all the way around. Because that's just the style that I wanted. I wanted it to look like a book box, but quite minimal on the lip, okay? So you've just got to keep holding it, putting it in place, as I say, until that glue starts to go off or go tacky, and then you're good to go. Now, one thing you can do as well is go back inside with your glue and add a bead of glue all the way around the joint from the inside. I did do this because I know that my glue is clear drying. If you do that, make sure you smooth it out with something, just like corking a bath. You know, you don't want it lumpy and bumpy, smooth it out. And if any glue is protruding when it's dried, you can get that out or off very easily with a glue eraser. It comes off of that fabric tape even easier than it does off of cardstock, and it won't ruin the tape. If you rub on cardstock too much with a glue eraser, you can rip it or tear the fibres. That doesn't happen with fabric tape. You can scrub it with a glue eraser and it doesn't ruin it. Okay, so if there's any glue protruding, that will come off. So don't panic. Trust the process. Get it so it's tacky. Maybe weigh the spine down with some heavy punches, which is what I ended up doing, and then leave it to dry overnight. Okay, you can see me there putting some more on the inside. That will all dry clear. You will not see it. So don't worry.
So here's my completed box. If you trust the process, it works perfectly. Any glue that shows, get it out with the glue eraser. So then all you need to do is put some magnets on the inside of the flap. Okay, so you put your magnets there, then put tape over them, put your other magnet over the top, put a dab of glue, and then very carefully go like that. Now when you're doing that, make sure that it's all nice and squared off. I've got a gap here, okay? You won't have that gap because I've given you amended measurements. This is my prototype. I've given you the good measurements, okay? And it will work fine, all right? So that's all nice and done, all right? So now all I need to do is make the shaker lid and line it all with patterned paper. Okay, so for our shaker lid, I've got a piece of the same chipboard I've been using for the rest of it. This measures 7 3/4 by 5 3/4. I've drawn a 1/2 inch border all the way around, so 1/2 inch in from the edge, 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch down, 1/2 inch up, and then we're going to cut all of this away, okay, with a blade and a knife, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut 2 pieces, the length the same as the length there, or the width, the longest section, with a little bit of overhang, and 2 pieces for the side. And what we're going to do is, I don't know because I've never done this before, so bear with me. So we'll undo this piece. I'm going to lay it down there like so. Now, it doesn't matter if this isn't covered all of the way, because that bit is going to be stuck on the box. So we just want to make sure that this bit's covered, okay? So get your good side. And so really, it wants to be about, yeah, halfway, just over halfway. Okay, so you've got maybe 1/4 inch there and the larger part there. Okay, right, that's how we're doing it. Let's see if it works. We'll see if it works. Okay. Just put that there, and same here. So I want the larger section, yeah, to tuck on the inside of the frame, about there. Okay, and then I've got these 2 pieces. Put that down, like there. And again, I want the larger part for the inside to come around here. Okay, as long as that comes up, as long as that's going to just cover that edge and stick onto there, then that's fine. Okay, and let's do the other side. And same again. About there, I reckon. All right, okay. So we're going to trim all of this so that it's all nice and even. Not that you're going to see it, but tidy work, tidy mind, apparently. And there. So we're just going to miter these corners, and I'm going to do it by eye, and I'm going to do it probably bigger than I need it. Okay. Right, let me think about this middle section now. How do I want it to go? I think I'm just going to cut it straight across the centre, and if I've got any gaps I'll colour it in with a Sharpie. So I'm just going to go from the corner straight across at an angle like that. Okay. So then we can do the inside bit first. Let me just put this knife away so I don't actually hurt myself. Okay, so I'm going to do the inside bit first, I think. I'm going to pull that. I'm going to burnish there. I'm going to wrap it around. Get that as neat as I can. The same here. Pushing down on the chipboard and pulling up on the tape so that it goes right on the lip of that chipboard there. And this will cover a multitude of sins if you've not cut your chipboard perfect. Yeah, it will cover it, okay? So I'm going to do the same here. I'll just get in there. Wrap it over. Get in with my bone folder to get that nice and straight, nice and burnished. Pull this one up. Pull that over. Okay, I'm going to go right into the corners with that, burnishing that tape. And then I'm going to do the side. I'm just going to push it like that to get myself a flat edge. Wrap it around. Doesn't matter what the back side looks like, it's going to be covered. I'm just going to flatten that edge and flatten that edge. I'm going to do the same here. Just enough tape there. Flatten that right up against the edge of that chipboard and there. And I'm going to do that one. And get that in. Give it a good burnish. Push some corners in. same here. Push it over. Burnish. So I've used the 45mm wide tape. You could do this process with cardstock. You could do what you want. Okay, that's actually not too bad, that, for my first ever attempt. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to burnish all of those edges. And then I'm going to go in with my Pro marker and just where there's a tiny little bit of chipboard showing there in the corners. You probably won't see it once it's on the project, but just in case, I'm just going in with a marker and just dabbing it into the corners of that chipboard. Don't use your best colouring markers for this. This is an old, very old Pro marker that I've had for about 1,000,000 years. Okay, so I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. A bit of extra burnishing there, so I don't like the look of that corner there. But that's all right, that'll do for me. Okay. Right, so that's that section done. So what you want to do with this now is put some acetate on it. I'll go and cut some acetate and get hold of my foam tape. So I've cut my chipboard to 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. And I think I said I measured these at 1/2 inch. I didn't, I've measured them at 3/4 of an inch. I will amend the big where I cut it. So I'm going to actually put my tape on to my frame. Okay. Instead of onto my acetate, which is how I normally do it. But I've been watching a few different people and they've been doing things different than who I learned from originally, and so I'm giving some of those ideas a try to see what was different, if I get different results and which I prefer. So I will always come and share those ideas with you. Okay. All right. Could have done that a bit neater, but never mind. So I'm just going to remove my tape backing. And add my acetate. So I'm just being careful to more or less get it straight. I've given myself plenty of room, and that is down. Give it a really good burnish. And that's my shaker frame ready. Alright, so now we can add our foam tape. So I've got my humongous roll of foam tape. Alright, so it's got a backing on. So I'm going to go from, and I'm going to leave a nice border all the way around, maybe 1/8 of an inch. I'm making sure that I've overlapped the edge of the acetate so that none of the shakers get caught in the lip of the acetate. Okay, so that's where I'm kind of aiming for. All right, is to make sure I've covered the edge of that acetate. Okay. straight across. Again, making sure I'm going to the edge of the acetate and just a little bit over it. Alright. And then I can join that up. That will give me dimension and it will hold my shakers in. Okay. So I'm going to set that to one side now, because now I'm just going to need to, before I attach this on here, let me just, where's my little brush? Before I attach this on here, okay, it's going to go there and you're going to have a border all the way around. So what I'm going to need to do is, first of all, is I'm going to decorate this with my patterned paper. So I'm going to decide what I want. I'm going to cut it to the size that I want and adhere it on and then stick that over. Well, I'm not sure how we're going to do that now actually. Yeah, I'll just put my shakers in the middle in a pile and then I'll stick that over the top. Okay, so I'll go and choose my paper and then I'll be back. Okay, so I've cut some pattern paper, 8.5 by 6.5, 1/4 inch shorter. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me, 1/4 inch shorter on the width and 1/4 inch shorter on the height. So I'm going to just add some, oops, I don't want glue on there, get off. Add some glue all the way around. Okay, and all in the middle. Okay. Just let me put a little bit extra on the edge. Make sure it sticks nicely. Alright, and then I'm going to layer it on with a nice increment all the way around. Okay. Give it a press, make sure it's all down on the edges. And then give it a good rub all the way. Okay. Right, so for my image, I'm just making my life easier. Okay, I'm not about making my life hard. So I'm going to get my frame. I'm going to find the image I want. It's this one here. I like it. Okay. All right. I'm going to put my frame where I want it, which is about there. And I'm going to very carefully just draw around my frame. Okay. And then I'm going to cut that out. With my trimmer exactly how I've drawn it. Okay. Then I'm going to go back in and I reckon I can take off. What can I take off? Let's have a think. I reckon I can take off. I'm just going to take off 1/4 inch. So I'm going to take 1/4 inch off all 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, and then I'll give you the measurement. 4. So this piece measures 7 by 5.5. Let me make sure I'm happy with that. More or less, yeah, it's fine. Okay. So now I'm just going to have a look where I want my frame. Okay, and I'm just going to actually that little corner's bugging me a little bit. Okay, so And this is just an easier way than cutting off funky frames and all of that palaver. All right. So I'm just going to put very gentle pencil marks where my frame is. Gentle, so that I can rub them out. Okay. And then I can put this and I can centralise it within those marks. Okay, so if I centralise it within those marks, that's about there. Let me have a look, see if I'm happy with it. Yeah. So then I can glue this down within those marks, centralising it. So I've got an even border all the way around with those pencil marks. Glue. Right, so there's my pencil mark frame, and I'm going to put this in the middle of there, making sure I've got an even border between the pencil mark and the edge of my paper on all four sides. And then I'm going to burnish that down. I'm going to use my rubber to remove the pencil marks, which I did very, very lightly indeed. I can grab my shaky shakies. I think we'll have stars. I think we'll have stars. Okay. I'm going to put them in a pile in the middle. Right, so I'll just burnish this tape so that it's easy to get off. I'm going to remove the backing and I'm going to pray to whoever's listening that I get this on straight. Pray to the crafty heavens that I get this on straight. Right. I'm sorry in advance if my messy hair gets in the shot, but I'm going to stand up to do this. Okay. See which way up I like the frame. Like it that way. And I'm going to do this by my wonky eye. What's that get off? By my wonky eye. Okay. So it might not be perfect, but who cares? It's handmade. Okay. I think about there. And then I can press that frame. Give it a burnish. And I now have... Oh no! Got myself a big pile of stars. They've all got stuck on top of each other because I put them in a pile. Come on, don't be naughty. Let's have a look. Tap it from the back. There we go. It's because they were all piled on top of each other. Okay, so now I've got my shaker. And now I can cut some paper and just do strips 3/4 of an inch shorter and finish the decorating. I'll be back when I've layered it all with paper. There we go, all finished, looking really lovely. Piece of advice, leave your paper layers to dry fully underneath before adding your shakers, because mine are sticking ever so slightly, and it's because there's moisture in there. They'll probably slide around better once it's dried. Okay, I've just added the little word there, and that is an absolutely, I've got all bits on my desk, a beautiful, beautiful sturdy box that will last forever. It's magnetised, all beautifully lined and decorated, ready to put my gift set in. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon. Remember to trust the process. It always works. Bye.